What's going on, everybody? I'm here to do a review for the movie Oppenheimer. Now, before I get into this review, I know I usually record my reviews with the camera on, but for some reason the camera was glitching and it was like not working properly. I don't know what that was all about, but like I said, we're going to get through this review regardless. Now, usually when I do movie reviews or talk about a particular movie, it's usually something that I'm interested in seeing early on. That was not the case with Oppenheimer. This movie was not on my radar at all. I knew that Christopher Nolan was directing it, and we know how phenomenal of a director Christopher Nolan is. I believe he also wrote the screenplay for this as well. Just an extremely talented individual. But it was two things that made me want to watch this movie. One, shout out to Town Biz because he actually saw it and he did a review on it, and I liked what he had to say in his review. And then two, one of my subscribers in the Discord had asked me, was I going to see the movie Oppenheimer and do a review on it? But I never gave them a response to it. I said, I don't know if I will or if I won't. Then a couple of other people kept asking me, was I going to go see it? So a lot of y'all, well, not a lot of y'all, but quite a few of y'all really wanted me to see this movie and see what I thought about it. And I think it's also because it's coming off the cusp of having a lot of good reviews surrounding around it. And the movie did get a lot of very high praise behind it. And after seeing it, I can easily say that the reviews that this movie got were definitely well deserved. This movie right here is probably one of the best movies I've seen all year. It's easily in the top 10. But before I actually let me go right into it. Let me just give you an overview of what this movie is about. So Oppenheimer is about a man by the name of Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer, who was a scientist out of New York, who basically he went to school in another country and he was very, very, very talented. He had a very high level of expertise and he basically created what has now become like the world's first, or maybe America's first, atomic bomb. For any of y'all who are unaware, there's a very infamous picture or video where you can see this explosion of this giant bomb explosion over in Hiroshima or Nagasaki that explodes. And a lot of people have probably seen this very infamous video that came from the bomb that he created, or at least one of the bombs that he created. Because he created one and then they created more using the technology and the sciences that he created in order to make this bomb. And basically it was during one of the wars. I want to say it was World War II, somewhere around that region. Initially, it was going to be used for Germany, but then they backed out and then they ended up using the bomb on the Japanese in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And basically the movie showcases where he started out as when he was in college, then leading up to him getting a team together. Well, before that, he ends up becoming a teacher, like a professor, and then leading up to him developing a team and on a base that he had built in order to create this bomb. And the crazy part about it is this movie has some of the best pacing I have ever seen in a movie in quite some time. Now, mind you, this movie is 3 hours long. I'm just giving y'all a disclaimer right now. This movie is 3 hours long. And what I liked about the fact that it was 3 hours is that, again, the pacing was good, but the overall story of this movie was phenomenal. Now, this movie being 3 hours, it's not a glamour movie. And when I say a glamour film, I'm talking about it's not a superhero film where you're going to get a lot of action. It's not a comedy movie where you're going to get a lot of laughters here in between. It is some funny moments in there, but it's only like 2 or 3, like literally like 2 or 3. But the fact that it relied heavily on the story, and the story was told so well, is what makes this movie really stand out above all. Like, the story really pulls you in and it has you in pretty much all 3 hours. My favorite part was definitely the third act of the movie. Now, a lot of movies, they fall flat with that third act, especially a lot of superhero movies. But this movie did the third act phenomenally because that's the part where it's it's talking about Oppenheimer's reputation. You know, after what happened, he's starting to feel some remorse. He's starting to feel regret. He feels like he's the villain, like he's the bad guy. Like, did I do the right thing? Was I right or was I wrong? Was I doing this for the betterment or for America? Like, what did I create? Because I'm thinking I'm doing one thing, and then they can take what I've built and what I've created with me and my team, and they can use it for other nefarious things, which, leave it up to this establishment, I'm very certain that's exactly what happened or what occurred. But now he has to try to clear his name in that third act. That whole third act, which probably was like a good hour and a half in itself, was so good. And it was so well shot and so well edited. I love the fact that even though this is a period piece, there was some shots that were shot in color. There was some shots that were in black and white. So it made you feel like you was in that that time frame of history, in American history. I also saw this movie on an IMAX 70 millimeter screen. Basically what that is it's film. It's shot on film. This is an outdated version of movie making, by the way, because movies nowadays are on digital, which is why you have all these nice sound effects and all the stuff in the IMAX and the stuff like that. But I wanted to see it in the 70 millimeter, and it's a good thing I did because the sound quality was good and it had the little crackling thing on the screen. Like if y'all remember the movies like back in the day, it would have them little crackle stuff around the screen. I like that for this particular film. I don't think it would pan out for every type of film, but for this movie, it actually worked very, very well. And I'm glad that I was actually able to see this in that particular format. The acting. Everybody in this movie acted their ass off. I don't think there was one dry performance from anybody in this movie. Now you can see across the top, that's the actors in the movie, but there was other actors in there as well. But everybody did a damn good job with the acting, even down to the people who had just a little bit of lines. And it's crazy too, because this was a very all-star cast. As you can see right here at the top, Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh. And there was a lot of other people in there as well that I recognize. And I'm looking at these people and I'm like, wait a minute. I know who that is because from this show, I recognize this person from that movie. I was surprised that I recognized as many actors in this movie as I did and where I could pinpoint where I've seen them at in recent time. Like, it was just amazing. The cast, the leading cast, the supporting cast was great overall. But in my opinion, I think the people, and this is no like shun to anybody else, but I think the people who had the most standout performances in this movie was Emily Blunt and Robert Downey Jr. There was a scene in the movie, in the third act, again, that third act was so good, when it was having the proceedings to clear Oppenheimer's name, because Emily Blunt's character, she played his wife, and she held him down like a wife is supposed to do. She knew what her husband was up against, and she basically said, Robert, you are going to have to go in there and fight for your reputation. You can no longer be like, try to be a martyr. You can't be the nice guy because these people are not nice. And when I tell you, when she got up in that chair and they started to question her because of her communist views of old, she checked the hell out of that person that was questioning her to the point where he looked like he was about to break out into a sweat, and she was just sitting there unbothered. Not a sweat bead fell down her face, not a piece of makeup or lipstick out of place. That woman literally held her husband down. And it's crazy because she kind of looked over to the side and said, sorry. Like she whispered to him, sorry, because she was going to try to do it his way, but she realizes that she could not do it his way. So she did it her own way. I was like, yes, that is what you're supposed to do. The other standout performance for me was Robert Downey Jr. As we all know, Robert Downey Jr. is a very good actor, and I'm glad that he's getting more work outside of Iron Man, because a lot of people are attaching him to Iron Man because that's the type of role that he's been known to do since 2008. That was his comeback, after he was literally on a slump for years due to personal issues. But his role, his performance in this movie, especially in the scene where he got discovered as being this underhanded, conniving dickhead. Let me tell y'all, the fact that I really hated his character in this movie just is a testament to how good he played this role. Especially the part where he started to spill the beans about the accusations against him, which were actually true, by the way. because his character was supposed to be Robert's friend, but he really turned out to be this underhanded, conniving backstabber, all because Oppenheimer got the praise and the glory and he didn't. Like that was crazy. But the way that he delivered this, it was like a little mini monologue in the office after he leaves out of the court proceedings, is definitely some of the best acting I've seen from him, even outside of him doing Iron Man. Because Iron Man, you know, that's comic book, so he's supposed to say some gimmicky stuff with the Tony Stark character. But this one, there was no Tony Stark. I didn't even see Robert Downey Jr. I saw Louis Strauss, which was the character that he played. But all in all, everybody in the cast did well. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I don't care about the Oscars. However, this movie is going to rack up in a lot of nominations. I'm looking at it right now. I'm going to list the ones I think is going to get as far as nominations go. Lead actor for Cillian Murphy. Supporting actress for Emily Blunt. Supporting actor for Robert Downey Jr. and possibly Matt Damon. Best movie for sure. Best directing. Best writing. Best editing. Best sound. Cinematography. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else? But yeah, that movie's going to rack up in a lot of nominations come award season. I'm calling it right down the middle right now. Sometimes you can see a movie and that's just the vibe that you're going to get when you see it. And that's definitely here. The sound effects in this movie, like when they would cut in through scenes of showing the explosion, it's basically like they were setting up what was about to come. It was a good lead up all the way down to the countdown of them testing the bomb. That was literally chills through the body when I was sitting right there in the theater looking at that and just listening and waiting for them to say one and him to press that button. And it's crazy too, because when they pressed the button, you didn't hear the explosion. It was quiet, and that was intentional. It was for you to hear the after impact after it exploded. So it kind of leads you up to the interpretation of what it sounded like. But the sound in this movie, the sound effects, the visuals, this movie right here is damn near flawless. And I've only given that to like one other movie this year, and that was Across the Spider-Verse. I really, really am glad that I decided to go and see this movie. Shout out to Town for doing the review he did. Shout out to my subscribers constantly asking me, was I going to go see it? I know I'm late on the review because the movie did come out almost a week ago, but you know, better late than never. But I would highly recommend people to go see this. If you want to see a movie that's not what we've seen, like, you know, with the superhero films and all of that stuff, go watch this movie. Even if you only watch it one time, mainly because of length, because I know some people be like, oh, 3 hours is a long time. Trust me, it's worth it. And I told people at the top of the year that I have a feeling that 2023 is going to be the year of the non-superhero flick. And so far, I think I'm right, because it's a lot of movies I've seen this year that were non-superhero based, and I really enjoyed all of them. And this movie right here, Oppenheimer, is falling right into that category.